Hiya, everybody. How we doing? How we doing? Let me see all your faces. Let me see who we got in the room. If you can, if you're in a place you can, just put your cameras on. It's always good. Oops, sorry, Jen. I'll let you admit. So that's if you can, yeah, put your cameras on so I can see your faces. How you doing, Stephanie? You good? I don't know. You got no sound. I don't know. Got no sound. Marina, you good? Long time. I saw
I'm
you.
good. Hi, Simone. How are you?
I'm
I'm
good. I
good,
saw
thank
you
you.
last week. Where did I see you? I saw you walking in West London.
Me?
Yeah, randomly. And I was going to beep you. It was just so random.
Really?
Yeah, just walking down
Okay.
a high road somewhere. I can't remember if it was Queen's Park,
Oh,
somewhere.
that would be me. That's me. Do you
Yeah,
live around here? Are you around here then?
I'm in Oldham, but I was doing something in Queen's Park. But I was just quite shocked to see
Oh,
you walking down the road. You're just in your own world, in your own thoughts. I was like,
that's me.
oh, how are we all doing this week? We good? If you can, put your cameras on, please, people. If you can. Stephanie, you got some sound?
Oh my gosh.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, Cassie, are you going to get us to do bits and pieces? Or are we?
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get to play around with ChatGPT very briefly. That's why, I asked if people could just sign up for it before the session.
I'm
Yeah, we'll
excited.
just do like one little short exercise.
Brilliant, brilliant. All right, do you know what? I'm not actually gonna. I was gonna give a few more minutes for people to come in the room. I'll let people kind of enter as they want. As always, I love to give people as much time and space to kind of share. As we all know, Cassie, he's one of our leaders 2023. It's really exciting that we can get our cohort, our members to share their expertise. Sorry, guys, when you come in the room, just put on mute. If you guys feel that you've got any expertise that you want to share, then let me know, because I think that that's so important that we provide opportunities and platforms to share. I'm not going to talk too long. As you know, Cassie's written a book on AI. Cassie's the expert. I'm slightly worried because I think I'm going to have more questions when I leave than when we start. I know that this session is going to blow my bloody mind in terms of what the capabilities and what we can do with Cassie. We're hoping that there'll be some space for questions afterwards, but don't worry if there's not. Cassie's on Mighty Networks, so we can always continue the conversations, and you know how to get hold of Cassie. So we're looking to continue the conversations. I think that this is going to be an introduction. I think it's going to open up our minds to everything that's coming. I can't wait to hear. So Cassie, thank you so much for coming. Thanks for so much for doing this. And I'll just hand over to you and let you jump straight into it.
Great. Thanks a lot for that, Simone. Hi everyone. I think I know some of you. I can't actually see everyone because I've got the presentation up on my screen. But I think some of you know me. I'm, as Simone said, one of the breakthrough leaders of this year. I wrote basically an ebook at the beginning of this year called AI Fulfillment TV, and it was essentially seeking to, I guess, familiarize people in our industries with what was going on in artificial intelligence, specifically kind of centered on Midjourney and ChatGPT as the two tools that I kind of feel are quite versatile and also kind of have the most obvious applications for the work that we do. And before we kind of start the session, I wanted to get a little bit of a sense of where everyone was at in terms of their use of these AI tools. So I've just put up a screen showing a Mentimeter link. Basically, you just need to go on www.menti.com and then enter the code that's there on the screen. And I've just got a few questions for you all. So basically, if you answer those questions and then keep going until it says stop here, stop there, and then I will be going through some of the responses. Because I'm going to go to the page for people who are coming in late. The link is still at the top of the page, menti.com, and then there's a code still there. So of the people who responded, it seems like there's a majority of people who have used AI tools before. A few people who haven't. Let us know if you're having trouble, because it seems like only half of the people who are watching have filled that in so far. Ooh,
Because you pop the QR
Benny.
code back on again.
Yeah, it's also written at the top of the screen. If you
Oh,
can you see the code? Yeah.
yeah, got it. Merci.
Yeah, sweet. Okay. So of the people that have kind of responded, seems like there's quite a lot of yeses, lots of chat GPT, Topaz, a bit Mid-Journey, Pika Labs, I've used that one as well, 11. Okay, cool. And then of the people who've kind of used it, find it quite easy. I agree. I think that these tools are definitely made to be easy, but hopefully, I mean, this session is really aimed at being an introductory because, you know, it's a mixed group. Lots of people who have maybe used it a little bit, but not used it super deeply, people who haven't used it. And in this session, I kind of want to go into the things that are out there, and then we'll go into a couple more advanced uses of ChatGPT or uses that I kind of find useful. So before we kind of start with all of that, I just wanted to go a little bit into what generative AI is, because I think that there's a lot of conversation around what artificial intelligence is, what it means, what it's going to mean for society, and I kind of want to demystify things a little bit, and I think that the first most important thing to kind of say is that generative artificial intelligence, or generative AI, is essentially a subset of artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence,
yeah, because they're not all Israeli,
although
some of them are British, some are American.
There's someone that's got their mic on there. And artificial intelligence is something that has been around for a really long time. So when we think about Netflix, Amazon, Instagram, these are things that, 5 years ago we were calling them the algorithm, but really they are artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence, what that is essentially, it is clever mathematics that leverages huge amounts of data and uses a lot of computing power in order to see patterns, match patterns. And the novelty that comes with generative AI is that we're seeing patterns, matching patterns, and we're using these patterns to create new things. And in generative AI, there are two relevant types, or two most relevant types for us. So there are the large language models. So large language models are the platforms and applications like ChatGPT. There's Google Bard. You've also got a few other ones like Anthropic's Claude. That one is a bit less well known. You've also got the diffusion models, and diffusion models are the image generation artificial intelligence tools. So that's your Mid-Journey, DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion, and those are kind of the ones that people maybe have heard of. I saw that in the responses earlier. Someone talked about Runway ML, and so when we've got video generation tools, these also use diffusion models. And so, as I kind of said earlier, these artificial intelligence models, essentially what they do is that they leverage huge amounts of data. So for large language models, so your ChatGPT, Google Bard, etc., that I was just saying, these essentially are fed huge amounts of text data, and this text data is used, and the model is trained to essentially see the connections between the words from billions upon billions of newsletters, of websites, of blogs, of articles from newspapers, on things that is found on Facebook. So essentially it trawls the open internet, but it also trawls book depositories. Wikipedia is also one of the sources of these large language models. And I think in layman's terms, what's the best way to talk about large language models is that they are huge text prediction models. So, if we think about T3, for people old school who are using like Nokia phones, or if we think about the text prediction that we have on our iPhones, this is a much more complicated, much more advanced extrapolation of that very idea. Because large language models, what they do is that through millions or billions, even should I say, of different parameters, they predict what word should follow the next word. And I think that this is a really important thing for people to think about, especially with large language models, when we think about some of the risks that I'm going to talk about later, specifically the risk of these artificial intelligence becoming hyper intelligent, or them shepherding the end of the world. So next are the diffusion models. So those are the models that I spoke about a little bit before, Midjourney, DALL-E 2, Stable Diffusion, etc. So in the same way that large language models are trained on huge amounts of text data, diffusion models are trained on huge amounts of image data. So they work in a slightly different way. And so as you can kind of see on the screen at the top, there is a little box that says, and next to it, it says initial noise image, and below it, it says final generated image. And essentially, the way that a diffusion model is trained is that you give it an image, or you give it lots of images, but for example, we'll have an image of a cat. The image of a cat is labeled cat. So when that goes into the diffusion model, it knows that this is a picture of a cat. And the way that the model is trained to generate images is that it completely degrades this image of a cat, and then it has to predict what an image of a cat looks like based off this essentially an abstract image, like complete noise. So complete noise that you see at the top of the screen there. The diffusion model is a little bit more complicated to explain. I'm not going to go too far into it because I always feel when I do these sessions, when I get into explaining the diffusion model, it causes a lot more problems than it solves. But basically, trained on lots of image data, and then is able to generate images. So I just want to go back to the Mentimeter because I'm really intrigued about how people are feeling about AI. So I've got a few more questions for you here. Looks like some people have already started answering these ones. So fun, deep, and exhilarating. It seems like there's a lot of positive feeling towards AI, which is surprising because I feel like a lot of the times people do feel scared, tall, futuristic, time saving, all great, creativity, exciting. Okay, so went off the worrying. Generic, that's an interesting one that I'd love to get into a little bit in a second. And great, like in terms of what people are feeling excited about. It feels like there's a lot of commonality there. Well, on the fake news, we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. Exhilarating, exciting, inspiring ideas. Yes, too much reliance. Love to hear from that person about that in a second as well. Losing essential skills. That's an important one too. Job takeover, taking over my job, relying too much on tech. AI self-awareness. Okay, great. Okay, let's get back to the presentation as well. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of these points that a lot of you have kind of raised, and talking about a little bit about the real and perceived risks in the use of AI. So the biggest one that I've kind of noted, and one of the ones that has definitely been noted a lot in the AI sphere and the AI critique sphere, is the danger of the dissemination of disinformation. So as you can see on the right, a lot of you will be familiar with that image. So that's the Pope wearing got to admit, a pretty sick looking jacket. Like I would definitely, if that was available, I might be looking to cop that. But anyway, so this image did the rounds on the internet at the beginning of this year. The first time it went round was because people were really surprised that the Pope had some pretty cool looking clothing. The second time it went round was that it had kind of transpired that this image had been generated using Midjourney, and Midjourney is an image generation app, one that I'll show you a little bit about further in this session. And essentially, the risk of dissemination of disinformation is so important here, and is so potentially prevalent because it's so easy to create synthetic media, essentially to create images of things that didn't happen in real life. So easy to create voice messages, voice notes, or things that in the past would have constituted something akin to irrefutable proof is easily trickable now. So we've also got the perpetuation of existing biases and discrimination as another danger and pitfall of AI. That links very closely into what I explained earlier about the ways in which these systems are actually modeled and trained. So, when you're pulling loads of information from across the internet, whether that's text data or image data, you'll get it when you're pulling in billions of pieces of data. It's very difficult to actually curate the types of things that are coming into it, especially right now where a lot of AI companies essentially are in a race to create bigger and bigger models, with the assumption, building off the assumption that bigger and bigger models create more and more powerful AI models. And if you have a more and more powerful AI model, you essentially will be able to beat out the competition. The problem with that is that the internet being the place from which a lot of these models are trained, is a place that is full of disinformation. Again, it's also full of racism, it's full of sexism, it's full of homophobia. There's a lot of really dark things that go on the internet with regards to exploitation, sexual exploitation of children. There's all these kinds of things. And when you're trawling the internet for these things, they end up becoming part of the models, and these models then are created. And again, as I was saying, they're prediction models. When they are trained on a view of the world that has all of these things in it, these things become part of their outputs. Famously, ChatGPT, but also a lot of these image generation models have to put in a lot of work in order to not make them spit out horrendous things. And so that is something that is worth thinking about quite deeply. So the third risk is job reduction. That's something that people have spoken about, or one of the things that people mentioned quite a bit. For example, Goldman Sachs, in April of this year, I think, estimated that roughly 300 million jobs in the global economy would be exposed and at risk due to artificial intelligence. I think that the job reduction risk is something that is that really bears thinking about. Especially, I think that people in creative industries, in various roles, are kind of scared about what that might mean for the work that they do, because I think that there's a positive side of it, which is that it means that that it will alleviate a lot of the routine tasks. But it does also mean that potentially in the near future, there will be a situation in which entry-level positions are less needed, but also that will then impact on the ladder into these various industries. The final risk is the risk of the development of capabilities beyond human control, and that one is, I would say, maybe the risk that has had the most airtime in the popular media. So we're talking about the risk that artificial intelligence becomes independently intelligent and then becomes misaligned from human values and human desires. And I think that risk for me, and actually, sorry, that's the wrong thing. One of the things that Simone and I were talking about a little bit before we started the session is that it's really important to recognize and to understand that artificial intelligence isn't being developed outside the frame of humanity. It's not being developed outside the frame of society. It is people that are devising these systems. And I think that it's really important for us. And this is one of the reasons that I do these sessions, that I enjoy doing them, is like, I think it's really important for all of us to recognize that we all have a stake in the development of artificial intelligences, but we also have power in how these systems are developed and how they evolve. And I think that at the moment, a lot of the conversation around artificial general intelligence, and also this, this purported artificial intelligence future in which, we all become, I think, as Simone called it, human batteries, is that needs to be designed. And I think that what we need to be much more mindful of is what are the things that are going on at the moment, what are the conversations that are being had, and what is the infrastructure that's being built, and how do we get into the conversation around what we would like to see AI do, and how we would like to see it being built. So I mean, the further point to that is like, so taking into account all of these risks and dangers, why is artificial intelligence so interesting for us then? I think it's really interesting because it presents massive, huge advantages for us as individuals, as companies, whether we're working as independents, whether we're running independent companies. I think a lot of people, we've all kind of been going through a tough time in the film and TV industries, and I know that at least speaking from my experience, as someone who directs, there's a lot of work that goes unpaid, especially when we're talking about development, but also when you're working on projects, there's so much work that needs to be done that people don't necessarily recognize or realize, and you're understaffed. And I've definitely found that artificial intelligence, using certain artificial intelligence tools, can actually help to alleviate and to help me in the completion in lots of those tasks. I also think that artificial intelligence, and if it is used well, can open the door for new forms of creativity. And so one of the points that I think is a really important point, and it's a point that a lot of people make and that I would love to reiterate, and it is that artificial intelligence isn't going to take your job, but someone who knows how to use artificial intelligence will. And I think that that's really important to reiterate. And I don't think that we should all be forced into using artificial intelligence. I don't think that it's a complete necessity, but I do think that artificial intelligence is already here and it's already incredibly capable, and it will become more so in the future. So I think that it behooves us to at least engage with it to some degree, and then we should decide whether we want to use it or not, or if it's additive to what we're doing. But as the point I was making earlier, I do feel that artificial intelligence in my personal work life helps me reclaim time, but also resources, and it also allows space for forms of creativity that I didn't necessarily have the time for in the past. So I've got one final question for you all on Mentimeter. So I'm just gonna pull that up for you now. Just gonna get back to that. Can you all see that? Can we see that? So it's just like one final question about what? Oh, sorry. Oops. Sorry. Is that closed? Can everyone see that? Oh, I don't know. Because I can't see any responses on that at the moment.
No, we can't see it from our end.
Oh, you can't see it? Oh.
We can see Mentimeter, but we can't see any responses.
Okay, let me just refresh that. That's weird.
What was the question we're meant to be answering?
So the question is, what part of your work would you benefit from AI help in? Okay, so we've got a few responses: development, script writing, brainstorming ideas, tedious transcribing. Are people having trouble getting onto the Mentimeter? Writing introductions, quick video edits. Yeah, okay, this is all great stuff because these are all points that I will be broaching in the session. And I'm going to speed.
Sorry, Cassie, I was just going to say people can add into chat if they're having problems with the Menti. Please put into chat as well, just so that we can continue the conversations.
Yeah, cool. All right. So I'm gonna move on. And the first thing that I wanted to show you in terms of the applications that are available at the moment is an application called HeyGen. And Simone, you are featured in this one. You had a little sneak peek of it before. I'm not going to mess around with it too much because Yeah.
Un des plus grands problèmes dont parlent mes membres est la représentation de leur communauté à l'écran. La plupart estiment que ces représentations sont unidimensionnelles et fades à cause du manque d'opportunités de prendre des décisions et de s'impliquer dans la réalisation des programmes.
Simone, I'm just going to get you to vouch for this, that you did not, that you do not speak French, or maybe not to that level, and that was not your words.
Speaking in French, that was completely me. I was not surprised. I only wish I could speak so fluently in French.
So that's an application called HeyGen, and essentially what I did to get that clip of Simone speaking in French was that it was an interview that Simone did. I think it was about some initiative that Lenny Henry was doing back in the early 2010s, and essentially HeyGen. It allows you to create avatars of people, so you can give them. So if you give it enough footage of a given person in a relatively controlled environment and enough footage of their movement and their voice, you can essentially create whatever. But in this particular instance, that was a direct word-for-word translation of Simone's response in the interview. So it was just a French translation of her talking about the initiative. And as you saw, not only did we get a translation in the voice of Simone, we got a translation with the lip movements that kind of accord with it. So this is a tool that actually can be super useful in lots of ways, especially when we're thinking about factual, putting together sizzles, things like that. I actually just came off a project in which I did use this particular application because it was really helpful for getting sync in a sizzle. I think that there are a lot of ethical questions about using it in a program that actually goes to air, especially at the moment. But in a closed door environment in which you are looking to make the best thing, I found it to be super useful. And so I just want to go onto another application that actually is the app that works in the background for HeyGen, and it's called 11 Labs. I saw that someone had already used this app, but I think that it's maybe one that people are not that familiar with. And essentially, 11 Labs does something similar to what HeyGen does, but actually it is just audio generation. So again, Simone, I'm going to be using your voice to create something.
And Cassie, somebody just made a comment when you finished that they use there's a bot that they use a lot on Twitter. Maybe you can talk a little bit.
Okay. Hi guys, this is Simone.
Oh, sorry, I'm just going to start that again.
Hi guys, this is Simone. Speaking to you from the early 2010s. I'm locked in the computer and I can't get out.
Sounds like a pretty convincing TV Simone. And so with 11 lamps with each generation, what it actually does, it'll generate it again from scratch. And so basically it's kind of like getting new line readings. So, we had it with a particular type of emphasis this time, and then,
Hi guys, this is Simone. Speaking to you from the early 2010s. I'm locked in the computer and I can't get out.
Again, Simone is speaking slightly differently there. 11 Labs, again, I've come off a project using that one a little bit too. Again, really useful for sizzles. I think that there are lots of questions for if we can use that for things that go on television. But I think that there are lots of conversations going on around assignment of rights, what that means for voice actors. There are lots and lots of different questions, but it is an incredibly powerful tool, and one that is available essentially on the market right now. I'm just going to show you another application. There's someone talked about in that survey about the use of editing software. Some of you might have seen this one. It's called Autopod, and it is essentially a plugin for Premiere Pro. Ooh. Just give me 1 second, and I'm going to show you that one.
And Cassie, we have a few questions or a few comments in the comment bar.
Yeah,
as well.
cool. I'll have a look at those in a second. So this is Autopod.
Introducing the Autopod multi-camera editor. This Adobe Premiere patent-pending plugin edits any multi-camera video automatically for any combination of speakers or cameras. Once you've run the installer, simply open it in Premiere by navigating to Window and then Extensions. To run it, sync all your footage and audio like you normally would on a timeline. If you are using a multi-camera sequence, just duplicate the multicam layer 1 time for each camera. Next, input the number of speakers and cameras. Input the names of the speakers for each audio track starting with A1. Tag the names of the speakers for each video track starting with V1. If you have multiple speakers in a shot, be sure to tag all of them. Now, just hit the Create Multicam Edit button and wait for your edit to finish. Once it's done running, you now have a completed multi-camera edit.
I only played against Peyton 3 times. Thanks for bringing it up. I'm 0 for 3.
0 for 3. Oh no!
Yeah.
I didn't know that actually.
There are a few different.
That's
So,
nuts.
as you can see there, that is a form of automated editing. Obviously, it's something that is a lot more relevant for podcasting or an interview context than it is for real storytelling, because as we know, the editing process isn't just about cutting from one shot to another in a room. There's a lot of other work that goes into that, but it is something that can be applied and utilized as part of existing workflows. And again, it's technology that is only getting better. I think that people are thinking of bespoke ways about how to integrate it into what they're doing. But for me, that is definitely a really interesting and exciting platform. So the last one that I want to show you before we get to ChatGPT is this platform called Adept. And Adept is in a slightly beta phase at the moment. Sorry. It's not opening up on my computer for some reason. Sorry about that, everyone. Just get that back up here. Yes, correct. I'll show you that. Sorry, everyone. Got lots and lots of different things I want to show you. Okay. Here we go. So essentially what Adept does, and this model that they use is called Act 1. And Act 1, essentially, you can think of it as an automated assistant that you give control over your computer to. So essentially, it automates your mouse clicks and your keyboard entry. So in the same way, and we'll get to ChatGPT in a second, but in the same way that, for example, you can write a prompt into ChatGPT, Adept, you write a prompt and it will carry. So ChatGPT will give you a text output. Adept will give you an action output. So you can ask it to do something for you and it will do that thing. And essentially, the easy way of thinking about it is that it is the real life version of what we kind of thought Siri might have become back in the day when it was kind of announced. So I'll just show you one of the clips that they have on their website as illustration. Here we go. So this is all the computer doing this.
Wow.
And then obviously this can be used across a wide range of programs. The idea with Adept is that actually it is platform agnostic. So essentially anything that you can run on your computer, Adept can control. So this platform, as I said before, is in beta, so it's not actually available for the public to try out right now. but it is something that will be available in the very near future. So I kind of want to get to ChatGPT. Hopefully, most of you have heard of this one by now. As I said before, I kind of explained it a little bit. It's a large language model. Essentially, they are the most popular AI or AI models that are kind of being used, or at least the ones that are being talked about in the media at the moment. And ChatGPT is really useful for lots of things. I use ChatGPT Plus, which uses a slightly different, a newer and different model to the GPT that you're able to access for free. And with the GPT-4 model, you essentially get access to a wide variety of plugins, but also capabilities that I've been finding incredibly useful for the work that I do. And one of the biggest things that I find it to be really useful for doing is basically that ChatGPT-4, or when you use GPT Plus, you are basically able to connect it to the internet, and you're able in a way that's similar to how Act 1 works that I just showed you in using your computer. ChatGPT is then able to navigate around the internet to get additional information, because one of the main issues that a lot of people had with ChatGPT, or still have with ChatGPT, is this problem of hallucinations. The idea that ChatGPT and its models, because it's a text prediction model, as I explained earlier, it predicts things that are complete nonsense. Sometimes, and for some people, and in certain circumstances, a lot of the time. So I just kind of wanted to do a little demonstration here of getting basically ChatGPT and GPT-4 to pull up some headlines and to explain them to us, or to tell them a little bit about them. And basically what I want to show you with this is how you can really quickly and effectively come up with ideas. I mean, there are lots and lots and lots of different ways that we can use ChatGPT, but what I want to do in this demonstration, I'm going to make it really short, is just showing how we can get from sorry about that, saying that the search didn't yield any results. That's never happened before. I tested this last night. Let me just see what comes up. I'm just gonna have to do it in a different way. But anyway, basically what I kind of wanted to show you is, this is an example. I'm not saying that this is necessarily how you should use it, but a lot of us, if you're running an indie, or if you're if you're an independent and you're looking for ideas, it can be really useful to get ideas from this platform in the same way that you might use a researcher, or you might use an AP or somebody like that, to actually get some ideas from across the internet. Okay, so this is giving me bad outputs. That's embarrassing. All right, I'm going to do it again. And this time I'm not going to use the Bing one. I'm going to use plugins. So I have a number of plugins that I tend to use. WebPilot is one that kind of works in a similar way to Bing. So in the sense that it connects to the internet and it allows it to search across it. So I'm just going to do this again. Hopefully this one doesn't mess up again. And yeah, so as I was saying, it allows us to, it can help us to essentially come up with some log lines, headline ideas that we can then develop a little bit further. Okay, so when we're using WebPilot, we're getting some headlines. So Israel, Hamas, we've got Brazil, we've got droughts in the Amazon, Russia, Ukraine, US House Speaker vote, national parks, robotics and AI, spying, Air Asia. Okay, The Air Asia one, I might go with that one because actually I was just reading that literally 2 seconds before this. So we can kind of prompt ChatGPT to expand on the information that's given us. So I can say, give me more information on headline number 9. So for context, it knows which one that is. The Asia story, we'll get a bit more information about that. Oh no, it's all not working today. I really wanted to showcase some of this stuff. Okay, let's see. Okay, headline number 2. And yeah, as you can see, a lot of this stuff isn't perfect. I mean, OpenAI, the company that runs ChatGPT, kind of protect or at least shield themselves with the idea that all of this stuff is in beta. Unfortunately, a lot of the things that I wanted to show you a little bit, it seems like it's not doing it. I know that The Guardian has put up a robot start texting that means that it can't be scraped by ChatGPT. I don't know if that means that actually potentially we're not able to even access it whilst using ChatGPT. So let's just see if I can give it an instruction to look like. And I will move forward with this thing if we don't get another answer that works, because there's quite a few other things that I kind of wanted to demonstrate.
Can we use another rather than Guardian? Could we try another website to pull it from?
Yeah. Well, that's what I've just asked it to do. It says hasn't found anything from the BBC either.
So all these media companies are getting wise to this now.
They are getting wise to it, absolutely. But it's kind of interesting because I did a workshop about this literally last week, and I used these exact same prompts, and I was able to do it. So yeah, so you know, the environment is moving really quickly, and as you say, I think that organizations are wising up to this thing because you know there is a whole conversation around copyright, but also attribution, but also you know, money and where does all of this money that is going to these massive tech companies, where does it go, and why is it not going to media creators essentially? So it's, you know, it's good from an industry perspective, but it's bad for our particular situation right now. I think that this is enough information here that ChatGPT has given us in order for me to just try and do this other thing that I wanted to show you. So this really basic. Try and get some documentary logline ideas. I don't think this is necessarily the strongest idea for us to be working off, but we don't have a huge amount of time left, so I'm just going to go with this anyway.
And Cassie, somebody asked a question in the chat.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No problem.
Could
you also let people know? Sorry, Cassie.
Yeah.
Could you also
I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. Different types of plugins that can be used on ChatGPT.
Yeah. I'm literally just looking at this thing now. So this plugin here is called Web Pilot. I also use the Wikipedia plugin when I use ChatGPT, and the Wikipedia one is actually quite powerful because, again, I think that for me at least, it helps counter, you know, the artifact of hallucination, because actually it then means that in certain circumstances, ChatGPT will then make reference to Wikipedia. And obviously, I know that Wikipedia isn't either always the most reliable source, but I think that rather than relying on text prediction, actually going to something that has been curated and worked on by other human beings can be quite helpful. So here we go. So we've got some logline ideas. Amazon's parched lung, deep dive into the heart of the Amazon rainforest, where the most mighty river run dry. And as you can see, I mean, these aren't necessarily loglines that are going to light the world on fire, but they're quite useful, and I think that they can be a really good jumping off point for us as people who are like constantly working on ideas, constantly working up ideas. And with that in mind, I just kind of wanted us to do a really quick exercise. So I'm going to give us 5 minutes to essentially, and I know some of you might have done this already, maybe played around with it a little bit. Basically, 5 minutes to use ChatGPT to, or work with ChatGPT to come up with a show idea, use obviously your own taste and knowledge, and basically write a log line. So if I give us until 12:50, and then we'll come back and yes, and we'll go through some of those really briefly. Let us know in chat if you have any questions. I'm going to mute myself for 5 minutes.
Mm.
I'm just reading Faraz's message in the chat group, in the chat, about knowing someone who used ChatGPT to write the pitch and integrated the commissioner's feedback and asked ChatGPT to refine it every time. I'm not surprised by that at all, because I think that, especially if you're using, well, it works really well with the free version, but with the ChatGPT 4, some of the responses and the ways in which it can apply knowledge and feedback flexibly is super impressive, and it helps save loads of time. And I think that, you know, as with anything, I think commissioners like to hear their ideas reflected back to them exactly. And I think that using a machine to reflect those ideas back is it can be quite a smart way to do it. So you've all got 1 minute left, and I'm just going to ask a couple people to let us know what their log lines were. And then also Michelle in the group was, I think Michelle may have spoken about a few different things, but one of the things was about, I guess, our ability to detect AI generated text. In this instance, it's AI generated text, and she was also talking about the fact that you cannot copyright things that have been written by AI. Copyright is a massive conversation in this field. But one of the points I'd make about the software that can scan text is really interesting, because actually what they've been finding is that although this software seems to work, OpenAI had a very similar piece of software. And what they found, and OpenAI is the company that developed ChatGPT itself, what they found was that there were a lot of false positives, and too many false positives to ethically be able to use software that distinguishes between AI written and human written text. Because actually the way that the AI detectors work is that they essentially work on, I think it's called, what's the name? But basically it's got a specific term, but it's essentially on the likelihood of a word following another word. So like predictability, essentially. And what they found was that people who don't have the particular language that is being analyzed as their first language. So for example, if you are a French speaker and you've written your text all in English, you're more likely to write text that is more probable than an a native English writing speaker. And so what was happening is that, for example, you had like Japanese students and Indian students who were submitting their things to their universities, and their text was being predicted at 90% or 100% written by AI. Although all that would happen is that English wasn't their first language, so they were using the words that were that made the most sense to them, but were unfortunately the words that were the most predictable. And I think that that's something that's really important for us to keep in mind. So, all right. So, who wants to talk about one of their log lines that they wrote up with ChatGPT?
I will.
Nobody?
I will. So I actually I just asked it to write a logline for a series that we already have in production. It's on season 3, and it's shockingly good. So I asked it to please write a documentary TV logline for a series about weird user-generated clips of the strangest weather phenomena that can be found on the internet. And it wrote, "Step into the unpredictable world of meteorological oddities with Weather Unleashed, Web's Strangest Storms." I even quite like the title. This captivating series scours the internet for jaw-dropping user-generated clips of the weirdest weather phenomena, from bizarre cloud formations to electrifying lightning displays, providing an extraordinary window into nature's most astonishing moments. That's good. I mean, there are bits of it that aren't good, but generally it's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think that that's the point that I like to make, is that, I think that the outputs are definitely not perfect. I think that a lot of the times, it's using that predictable phraseology, it's using corny words, but, I think that it's really important for us not to be like, well, we're just going to delegate all of our work to artificial intelligence. I think that it's something that we need to use to augment our work. It's something that, can help us to get to the finish line a lot more quickly. And, especially when resources are tight on our end, I think that it's something that can be of pretty huge value, actually, if it's used well and ethically within teams. So I've got one last thing, because I know that we've only got 5 minutes left. And the thing that I kind of wanted to show was, okay, let me just put it back up, is just how we can use ChatGPT essentially to work, or we can get it to take on characters, take on roles, but with the addition of plugins, we can get it to do pretty complicated stuff. So I did a workshop at the BBC last week, and one of the things that really impressed them, so I just thought I'd show it to you, was essentially I got it to essentially, I mean, role play is not necessarily the right word, but give us outputs that would be akin to something that we would get from somewhat like a legal advisor, someone who works in guidelines. And essentially, I got it, so I'll just read out the prompts. You are an advisor to a channel controller at the BBC, taking into account the impartiality guidelines listed at, and then so this is the BBC's, this is the address at which the guidelines are. Evaluate snippets of scripts that are input here with regards to their impartiality. List potential issues and quote relevant parts of the script and the guidelines in your analyses. So essentially, I'm priming, like called priming. So I'm priming ChatGPT. It's going to go and get the guidelines, going to read through them, and then we'll be ready to put in a section from the script. So I'm just going to copy a bit of script from the show Veep, just to show. So I'm just going to use the first. I'm going to use a little bit of a. So here it's literally giving us a summary of those impartiality guidelines, diversity of opinion, due weight, controversial subjects, blah, 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 news, current affairs, contributions, affiliation, consensus. So I'm just going to wait for it to stop generating that, and then I'm going to give it a little segment of script. There we go. So now it's ready to take the script. I've just put this little bit of script in. And so here we see it's identifying where there might be issues with regards to the script as it relates to the impartiality guidelines. So controversial subjects, identify that the bathroom bill might be something that's controversial. Contentious views, talking about like the flyover states. And yeah, and then it's given us a summary of the potential issues that we see in these scripts. And, you know, obviously this isn't limited to this particular use case. I'm just kind of showing you what you can actually do. Like, you know, when you really think about like how ChatGPT or how AI tools really can be integrated into your workflows, there are lots of really bespoke things that we have to do as people in film and TV that we're not necessarily thinking about how we can alleviate some of the pressure and actually, you know, maximize our time and maximize our resources by getting artificial intelligence to help us with. And, you know, I think that this particular use case, I think it bears thinking about, because actually, I think as with anything that's generated by AI, I think it still requires a human, it still requires labor, and it still requires us to be checking the outputs and to be looking to see if what it's saying is making sense. But I do think that actually it can help us save quite a lot of time. So we've kind of come to the end of the session, because it's like 2 minutes to. But if people have got any questions, we can maybe go over some of that. So what did you say, Simone?
Cassie, I was just going to say there's a few comments in the chat that would be nice to pick up on, and I'm really, just if you could pick up a few of the comments in the chat, and if anyone else has got well, that'd be great.
Sure. So Ilya, would you trust it to evaluate the most important parts of a legal document without reading it yourself? No. I don't think that would be wise. But I think that, you know, especially if we're thinking about legal documents, one of the things that I found it really useful for is actually, you know, I can't speak for everyone in the room, but I know that I'm not a legal expert. I think that I can make a pretty good crack at reading a contract and understanding a lot of it. But, you know, ultimately there are lots of things I don't understand. And what I found it really good for is like putting something in, getting it summarized or explained to me, and then being better armed when I do speak to my legal advisors. And I think that makes for a lot better conversations, but it also means that we're having much more efficient, we're making much more efficient use of the time in those contexts. we've got a question from Michelle here as well. I think in ChatGPT, you have to really prime to give it to give you the voice and tone you need it to adopt. Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely goes to one of the points I was making before, that I just don't think that ChatGPT or any AI tools should just be used as something that we just say, we're just like, okay, we're going to give it something and it's going to give us stuff back, and then we're going to copy paste it and then use it. I think, it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to do your work for you. I think that, ultimately we're paid for our knowledge, for our vision, and for our particular perspectives and insights. And, we should hold on to those things. And like, those are the things that we need to be applying to the work that we do. But also, if we choose to use artificial intelligence, and in this case, ChatGPT, those are the things that we need to be bringing to the table as well. Because, ultimately, as I said before, huge prediction models, but the quality of the input will have a massive impact on the quality of the output in this context. So we've got another question from Adnan. Is there a way to source reference the info that ChatGPT and other AI uses to build its answers? So Adnan, in response to your question, when you use ChatPilot, or if you use the Bing plugin, it will actually give you the links to where it's getting the information from. But when you use the vanilla ChatGPT 3, as far as I'm aware, it can give you citations. But because, as I said before, I really want to stress this, it's a text prediction model. It is predicting nonsense. Like, so you have people, and it's interesting because my brother was like, oh, like I put this thing in and it gave me like loads of citations. The citations that it'll give you when you're using ChatGPT 3, more often than not, are nonsense. Like, you'll get links to sites that don't exist. You'll get links to articles that don't exist, because it's a prediction model. When using ChatGPT 4, so the paid ChatGPT Plus, the plugins that are actually using the internet as part of the information that is used as input, those citations, and again, even in those cases, I've used it and it sent me to things that don't exist, but there's a much higher probability that actually the citations are real things.
Wow, I'm slightly blown.
That's helpful.
Yeah, I'm slightly blown. Thank you so much, Cassie. You're so much covered. Like I said, I knew that I would start this session or end the session with more questions than I started, and I would love to invite you back and ask you to do maybe just a session on ChatGPT, because I know that people have got loads of questions. One of the things that did strike me, though, is, like you said in the beginning, people are really scared. And I'm showing my age slightly, but I grew up in the kind of Terminator generation, like I said, where we all become human batteries. But it did definitely give me a sense of just some of the possibilities that's available, or that we can do with this technology, and it's definitely very, very exciting and really inspiring to know what we can do. Cassie, if people want to continue the conversation or have any further questions, can they shoot you a line on Mighty Networks and continue that conversation there? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I'm definitely open to having conversations. And also, I think a lot of us are in the same WhatsApp group, so you can message me in there as well.
Definitely. And I'd love you to come back, like I said, and maybe just do a ChatGPT session. GPT session, so we can just focus in on that. Oh, fantastic. Thank you guys for coming. I hope you found that as insightful as I did. My mind's slightly blown. So much to look at and explore, and I've got the free version of ChatGPT. Are you getting shares? Because I'm thinking I might actually buy the premium. I actually might go and buy the premium and see what that's
in OpenAI. I don't know if OpenAI is actually on the stock market as of yet.
Okay, yeah, little handback. But thank you guys for coming. Any more questions, put them on Mighty Network. Our next session is on the 1st, I think, for Leaders 23, with Remy on the 1st of November. And we have an event coming up in November, in-person event in November, which I'll let you know the dates of soon. Good seeing you.
Great.
See you guys soon.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Love. See you later.